Hello everyone, welcome to From the Heart. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Mary.
And we're excited to bring to you all that's new and good when it comes to the arts in Central Florida.
Today we are talking with arts advocate Les Slesnick, a photographer, advisor, and juror of significant shows for many years. We look forward to learning about Les's art journey up to now. Welcome, Les.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
welcome back. We're so glad that you're here. So tell us about some of your greatest accomplishments as an artist.
Great accomplishments. You want me to be egotistical?
Yes, please do.
Yes, well,
you can toot your own horn for a second.
Thank you. I think my greatest accomplishment, in all seriousness, was an artist mentoring program that I developed for the St. Louis show a few years ago. And St. Louis called me and said, Les, it's always the same old story. We haven't got any money. That's the way it always starts out. But would you be interested in helping us develop a mentoring program for college art students who want to get into the art fair business? And we'll give you some time to think about it. And I said, well, I've already thought about it, and the answer is yes. So I did develop for St. Louis a total, what I would call a total immersion program. It's like when you go to Mexico and you live in someone's homes for 2 weeks to learn to speak Spanish. We had a bunch, almost a dozen college kids come to the art fair for 4 straight days. They had to give up the rest of their lives for 4 days. And it was total immersion, including almost 10 hours of actual classroom work that I devised for them. We had a dozen speakers. We had the art critic for the St. Louis newspaper. So that was a total success, and I'm very, very proud of that.
That's awesome. And you could have really had an egotistical moment right there, but what the answer that you gave gives testimony to that you are a true arts advocate, because you could have said this thing that won this wonderful award, or the time that I was the best juror, but what you talked about was this mentoring program that you created so that these students could have a path of success in the arts world. So kudos to you. What an amazing thing to say.
And that's what art's all about too, right? Yeah. About what we can gift through the creative work.
We kept each of these students, they had something every single hour of every single day to do. They followed the judges for 2 hours each day. They had to set up with each artist, actually take stuff out of the truck. They had to tear down the booth at the end of the day on Sunday. They had to do it all.
Wow.
Plus, we taught them how to price their work, what you think your work is worth as a student is actually usually quite different from what it is in reality.
Can you answer that question? How do you price work, and how do you find the value of your own work when you're pricing it? I don't know. That's probably a really tough question, but can you answer that?
In a way, I can't answer that because I've done several of my own informal studies in that regard. With the exception of one artist who took part in the study, and this was in St. Louis where I did it, was just one of the times I did it. Your cost of materials should never be, this is just a rule of thumb, more than 10% of the retail price of your artwork. I started with photographers because, as you know, that's the field I was in. So when I taught at UCF for one term, I brought in a whole bunch of photographers, and we talked about, we didn't critique their art. The idea was, how do you make a living making the kind of pictures that you're making? You're able to make a living at it, yes. Well, how do you make a living at it? And how much, we actually said, how much do you make doing what you do, making these kinds of pictures? And I told them beforehand, and you had to give us numbers. We did the study. This particular study showed that without single exception, every one of the photographers that I brought in, gross profit was between 88 and 92%, which means the cost of goods sold was about 10% in your time that you put in it. When I did the St. Louis thing with the mentoring, we did the same thing again, but then since we were dealing with art students from the colleges and all disciplines, and the funny thing is we didn't have any photographers. We had painters, sculptors, everything else. And so I extended the theory in that case, too, with but one exception, they all fell in the 88 to 92 gross profit percent range. So that was a starting point. But a student who hasn't graduated yet, even having produced the same brilliant painting that so-and-so has produced, still cannot command the same price that the guy who's been on the circuit can can command.
But they put their whole life into it, all those hours of learning and growing.
Yeah, but the point is, Mary, and what I tell them, I'd rather you underprice the work. I'd rather see you sell everything
Sell it, yeah,
and
right.
go home happy
Right.
than sit there all weekend and get depressed.
Because isn't there value in just someone actually purchasing the artwork because, you know, they've been able to see that somebody saw something great in my work? I mean,
sure.
of course you
Drives
want the great price because that's what's paying the bills, but there's also great value in just somebody saying, I appreciate what you've done. So like you said, you'd rather underprice it and it be sold than to
right.
maybe get the
Well,
top dollar for it.
Exactly, and I've always said, to me, the greatest, a lot of artists when we did the show would say, oh, Les, I love your work, these are great photographs. But to me, the greatest compliment was oh, Les, I love your work, I love these photographs. And then they took their wallet out.
Oh, yeah.
I see, that was the greatest compliment.
You know my husband, Jason, he's an
Yes.
artist, and
Yes.
people will sometimes come into his booth and cry or laugh. And when someone has emotion evoked like that, that's a great gift for him. And then, of course, selling.
Yeah. Yeah, so Les, you spend your life supporting and promoting the arts. So why do you do that? Why are you so passionate about the arts?
I think the arts are part of our everyday lives. I think from an economic standpoint, arts have been used to revitalize downtrodden cities, downtrodden areas. You take Chattanooga, Tennessee, for example, who gave, I think, artists a $25,000 gift basically to relocate your home and your studio to within a certain geographical area in downtown Chattanooga. Oil City, Pennsylvania, a little town of less than 20,000, is doing the same thing. So art is just part of our lives. As one art museum director put it, she said, it's just part of our lives. It just would make us happy. And in some way or another, we encounter art every day. And
you can't take it out. Arts is a part of our life. Every single thing that we do every day has the arts
and
infused
there's an
into
artist
it.
behind it, whether it's something you're sitting on or wearing, somewhere there was an artist behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
well, I think art is what gives our society culture. And I think it's important that every society have a culture. And it can be a culture that's unique to any given society. It can be a culture that's unique to a given geographical area, such as the Midwest or the Southeast.
Or Orlando.
But it helps, yes, but it helps identify us as a culture.
Yes.
That's a great word, Les. Yeah.
Well, we're going to learn more about the culture that's growing in Orlando from you, Les, when we come back. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
We're going to be back with Les Slesnick and learn what's coming up in the future and a little bit more about the things he's proud of in his life. Thank you for joining us today from the Heart.